All right. Jeff, did you watch wrestling this week?
I did, and I'm pleased to see you got my memo about black t-shirts.
Yeah, yes. Good. That's actually a
Yes.
charcoal gray, I believe. But
Oh,
yes.
sorry.
Hmm.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I watched me some wrestling this week. There was some wrestling that happened, some interesting things, some stuff.
I felt
Jinder
there was
not
some
win a
good wrestling.
title,
There was some
you
good
know.
wrestling this week.
Yeah, well, I mean, so I guess the two big matches out of the gate are Jinder and Seth,
Jinder and
you know,
Seth, main event
which
of WWE Raw. Jinder
right.
Mahal. Would he shock the world like he did in 2017? No. But,
No, he wouldn't. No. No. And then we had Hook and Samoa Joe
Hook and Samoa
following that,
Joe.
which is instantly a more interesting match. Like, no disrespect to my man Jinder, but like at
It's
this point, I lay that
interesting.
at Seth's feet as just as much. But yeah,
It's interesting because the two different matches are completely different. Like
oh,
Joe versus well, that might not be surprising, but I thought both promotions actually did good at putting on their types of
hmm
main event matches. Joe versus Hook was just two guys having a fight.
yep,
Lots of submissions. Joe looking great. I thought Hook, did fantastic as well. That
Mhm.
was great. I also thought Jinder versus Seth was pretty good, but it was obviously the work
Yeah,
rate. Jinder Mahal has never been confused with a Will Ospreay or a Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins has been confused with the Seth Rollins
well,
frequently.
yeah,
Yes, he is quite good at the wrestling. Um,
I've
so
heard that.
the so the match quality wasn't as good, but they did, just these little things that WWE always does to make the story good. Like right before it goes to commercial break, when everyone's thinking like, all right, we know Jinder's not going to win the title. We can probably go to bed early. They have Damian Priest walk out with the briefcase. They're like, oh yeah,
This
wait.
definitely doesn't happen every week.
No, but it does add. It's like a get out of jail free card when you've
Mhm.
got a main like a world title match where the result is pretty obvious. It's like, well, just send the guy with the briefcase out and it'll add a little, aura
Excitement.
of excitement of anything could happen. I could see a title change. And so just the way they did that, and then they did some false finishes with Indu Share coming out
Mhm.
and things like that. The way they do their false
Yeah.
finishes, that's they did good at it. So I felt that was a good match too. For my taste, Joe versus Hook was awesome, but
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
way
I
WWE does things, Jinder versus Seth was just fine too.
Yeah, well, it's like you say, it's very much their kind of match, i.e.
Yeah,
the Jinder Seth match was very entertaining,
yeah,
and the Hook and Samoa Joe match was just a great wrestling match, which
I
is
loved it.
those two companies' strengths,
Yeah,
so why not
yeah.
play up to them? I'll tell when Jinder came out, my first thought was, geez, what happened to the Bollywood boys? Because turns out Indus is not the Bollywood boys, uh,
No, no,
which
but
makes
I
me a little
I
sad, but you know,
So I like the Bollywood boys quite a
love
bit,
them.
but they're doing cool stuff with like independent promotions, and I think they had some GCW dates and Defy or whatever. So they're doing fine. They're doing
Yeah, they do
fine.
some
But I felt,
dungeon wrestling stuff, I think.
oh yeah, Dungeon
Yeah.
Wrestling in Calgary. Yeah, I think they're the tag team champions there. Had a little feud with the Billington Bulldogs, who are the Dynamite
Yeah.
Kids nephews. So some very cool stuff that they've done in Dungeon Wrestling. But having Indu Share out there, I thought like it
Mhm.
made Jinder seem like a bigger
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
wait, he's got lackeys, and
Oh,
well, not
yeah.
lackeys, but bodyguards maybe is a better way
He's
of putting
got
it.
buds, he's got people watching
Yeah,
his back. He's
yeah,
clearly well liked enough that these guys hang out with him, you know.
yeah.
But
It's weird. They
yeah.
never really do anything with Indu Share though. Like they come out and they like win and then they just go
Mhm.
away for a bit. And
So I was doing that thing that I do
mhm.
where I just kind of stare off into the middle distance for a few hours and think about wrestling.
Right, right,
And
yes,
some people make a good career out of that. I don't know.
hey,
But and I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, WrestleMania 40. My dream of a CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Jinder Mahal three-way dance is probably not going to happen.
No, I'd say no.
And so the hamster started rolling on the wheel, and I was like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Tony Khan's made a big deal out of Jinder. So what if Tony Khan and Triple H were to like meet in a back alley somewhere and hash out details and exchange briefcases full of cash and actually set up a match at WrestleMania 40, Jinder Mahal versus Hook? You know, the WWE guy that Tony didn't approve of versus his hand-picked guy. And then I'm like, that's silly. That would never happen. And then I'm like, wait a second, Jeff. Warner Brothers, who's
Mhm.
the ones that are airing AEW right now, are
That's right.
kind of becoming the front runners to possibly pick up Raw as well.
Maybe. We'll
Maybe
see. Maybe.
it's all a very maybe thing. So
Mhm.
I'm like, if both shows are on the Warner Brothers network, Warner Brothers could insist on this match as cross promotion. And I'm like, the more I think about it, the more I think it's a win for everyone. Obviously, Jinder's going to go over Hook. So WWE looks great.
Well, yeah,
AEW is exposed to millions of people that probably wouldn't have done it before,
mhm.
you know, and we get a decent match in terms of Hook and Jinder Mahal. And you know,
Well, I
WrestleMania
think
is like 8 days at this point. You got to fill those cards with
you got
something.
to fill it. Yeah. Wow. I'd say the likelihood of that happening is hovering slightly above zero.
Oh yeah, no, no,
Um,
no. CM Punk coming back to WWE will happen before that.
Oh yes, well.
Yeah.
Well, but that's another thing to point out is that wrestling is ridiculous and
Yes,
ridiculous things happen all the time. So you can't say that something is completely unlikely to occur when unlikely things occur all the time. There's
it's
no
kind of the
rules.
business
Anything
they're
can happen.
in.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
But I think far more likely is Triple H loaning Jinder Mahal to AEW
mm.
to do that match in AEW. And I think what he might say is, Tony, uh, or I can't do a good Triple H, but he'd be like, I'm definitely.
Tony, are you ready for Jinder? Because he's in the hall. He's gonna come in now.
But like my biggest gripe against Triple H, and I don't have a lot because I enjoy his booking. But one thing he does that I'm not a huge fan of, he's very aggressive in trying to hurt AEW. Like WWE is
Yeah,
very, yeah, I mean they both go at each other, but it seems like he's more willing to do things like run a show on the same night as their pay-per-view or
yep.
something like that, right? So I think maybe what he would do is be like, even though I kind of do this adversarial thing,
Hmm.
Jinder Mahal in AEW is just too funny. You gotta do it. You gotta do it. Jinder Mahal. Oh my god, it would be so funny. You gotta. I'll even give you Indu share. You just pick up the Bollywood boys. They've been there before.
Here's who we need to bring in on this.
Go ahead.
If we're producing this match,
Mhm.
here's who we need to bring in on this. It's a guy by the name of Mr. Ass.
Oh, Billy Gunn. Oh,
Yes,
sure.
because he'll be able to be the go-between.
Yeah, he's the bridge, right?
Mm,
So
exactly. So I think that's who we need to approach here. So Billy Gunn, if you're watching, and I know you are,
uh-huh.
just give us a call. Let's get these people talking. I want this to happen. I want this to happen almost as much as I wanted to buy a ticket to the last NWA tapings, which is not a sentence
Oh,
I ever
hey,
thought I'd say. Uh,
there
because
were NWA tapings recently, and it took us a long time to figure that out.
yep, and we have breaking news here on the show as a
Breaking
result of our
news from 5
investigative
days ago.
report because they advertised a match so big that it has two names. The 10 pounds of gold weapons / ultimate match of death match.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not overselling this at all.
Mhm.
Matt Cardona, of course, because course, and the current NWA champion EC3,
Right.
of course, because
Mhm.
he's peaked. Um, so we were discussing it, and we're like, yeah, that first of all, ridiculous. Like that has to, I sincerely hope that it is just a table of random assorted objects spray painted gold, and we pretend they're gold weapons or something. I
Oh,
don't know how
look,
it's gonna work.
I'm sure Matt Cardona is coordinating a lot of this,
Oh yeah.
and Matt Cardona is fun to watch. So I wouldn't rule out the possibility that this match is actually very enjoyable to watch.
Here's the issue though.
Mm-hmm.
When do we watch it?
Okay, so we were discussing before the show starts. It was like, oh yeah, well, I saw that they made a match, Matt Cardona versus EC3 Ultimate Weapons of Death match. I was like, yeah, okay, well, when does that match happen? I was like, well, at NWA Paranoia. I'm like, right,
Mm,
wait, didn't NWA Paranoia already happen? I thought I remembered a poster for that for this weekend. Turns out it did. It was a
mm.
TV taping for Paranoia, or for Paranoia, for Power.
I believe it's pronounced
But
power.
Power, but none of the matches from Paranoia have aired on Power yet. So, and also there's no spoilers available. Like I went to all the spoiler places and they said, no spoilers for you.
No, they said
And,
when they said, "Isn't that this weekend?" And you
they
said
said for
no.
what? NWA? Like, yeah, rap group? No,
Oh,
the
the
Billy Corgan's wrestling company? Yeah, I thought it
again
was
a
funny when
sentence that I never thought I'd say. But
when Homicide would wrestle in the NWA, he'd wear NWA t-shirts, and I was like, that's meta. That's meta, man.
Ooh. You think Billy was mad about it? Probably. He seems like he's
I
mad about
don't
everything.
know. I don't know. So I want good things for the NWA,
Mm-hmm.
but it's it's a difficult promotion to like. They've had some rough times.
Mm-hmm.
There was that thing where they had the NWA Sam Hain show, and they had people doing cocaine as part of like a skit or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This then got to the CW. It has caused them to just be on the app rather than the actual TV station. At
You
least
know what the
that's the
worst part of
reports
that whole
going around.
thing is too? You
What?
know the executives were like, they're doing what? That's the sad part of it all. But I digress.
But there are some good wrestlers on that roster. Like, um, because they represent like a huge part of wrestling history. Like
Yeah.
they have the rights to the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, all the lineage there. Like it
Mm-hmm.
feels important that this promotion do better than it's doing. And this promotion has been okay. When Nick Aldis was the NWA World Champion, they did a lot of stuff that was even better than being watchable. I'd say it was actually enjoyable to watch a lot of that stuff. But Nick Aldis, since he's left, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
there's been a creative void, and I'm actually hoping that Matt Cardona could kind of replace that because Cardona, if you remember, was the NWA champion for a
Mm-hmm.
bit. And I thought he was a really good NWA champion because he was all like he did sort of the anti NWA, anti
Mm-hmm.
history angle, but then he ended up tearing his pec and he was gone for 9 months. So I'm kind of hoping maybe he could come in, be the top heel, be the
Mm-hmm.
champion, and maybe kind of breathe new life into the promotion. So
Maybe. I think NWA's biggest problem is just simple accessibility.
yeah.
That even MLW and GCW, you can find those matches. You can
Mm-hmm.
find regular content from those companies, and you kind of can't from the NWA. They do stuff on YouTube every now and again, but there's no like it feels very rinky dink, and I
You
think
know
the
what they
CW
lack?
thing would have really helped them, but
Yeah.
then, cocaine.
But like GCW has like very passionate supporters, right? So like you don't have to go far to like there's somebody that's posted a bunch of GCW clips online or something
Mm.
like this. This is pretty easy. But you know, I think like when they were just doing the show on Power
Yeah.
and it was more accessible, but then they moved to Fight TV. Now they're on the CW app. These are harder things to get
Mm-hmm.
to, and I think it's hurt their growth.
Yeah.
Although if they are getting money from the CW app for their content, I mean that's good if they were getting money from Fight, but
Mm-hmm.
this they don't appear to be spending a lot of money, so I
And
don't imagine they're bringing in that much.
here's my issue with it too.
Mhm.
I don't know if you know this, but it's 2024.
I have heard.
Literally anybody sitting in their attic and or living room can videotape themselves talking about stuff and putting it on the internet.
Yeah.
How has NWA not created an online presence for themselves?
They're
Like
bare
it is,
bones budget. Like this is just a rock
but
star
you don't.
funding a promotion that doesn't make money.
TikTok is free.
He's got a
You
tour with
know, like
Smashing Pumpkins.
yeah, like,
Like,
and this is, and we're also not talking about a show run by Paul Heyman who's borrowing money from his mom to not pay people. Like
mhm,
this is Billy Corgan.
right.
He might have some dough. And I understand, the idea he doesn't want to piss his money away or whatever, but that kind of it has never really sat right with me that Billy Corgan, who is a multi-millionaire, I'm not saying
Mhm.
he's a billionaire he's not at a Vince level or anything like that, but he's got some cash, hasn't been putting a little bit more of his own money into it to raise it to that level. He's kind of just been and like this is the thing, right? Like CM Punk becomes a free agent and he's like, I don't know, man, come have fun with us. It's like, Billy, you could afford CM Punk if you really wanted to.
Siamese Dream sold a lot of copies.
Melancholy, that was like two whole
It's
deals,
two discs.
Like, come on. And I'm not saying that like, he has to do that. He shouldn't have to do that. You're right. He shouldn't have to do that. But he could do that. And so when he's like, "Oh man, poor us. We lost a deal with the CW." I'm like, "You're Billy Corgan. Call MTV tomorrow. They'll put it on the air." Like, and it really strikes me as strange that, and maybe he just wants to keep his worlds very separate and he doesn't want to, but Billy Corgan is not great at leveraging the fact he's Billy Corgan to help the NWA.
Yeah, he's actually talked about that before where a lot of his music
Oh,
fans just aren't into the wrestling thing. And I can see that. I can see if you're like a big Smashing Pumpkins fan and there's this like devil man spewing
yeah.
evil, and then he's like promoting like a really southern style wrestling. Like here, like it's like,
Yeah.
what the
But you see,
hell?
the money is going the other way, though. That's the thing. You're not going to get a bunch of Smashing Pumpkin fans to be like, well, all right, I guess I'll check out wrestling. But you could get a whole bunch of wrestling fans to check out your wrestling if they knew how to find your wrestling.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that
So
that's just like a 1, 2, 3 step process that I feel like he hasn't really done anything with. You know,
yeah,
it in a way he's got to be more Ric Flair. He's got to make himself a little bit more of a central figure within the business, not forever,
hmm
just until he can really get it to a place. Because the worst thing that would happen would be the NWA shutting down because it can't afford to run anymore
hmm
while being owned by someone who has the capital
yeah,
or could acquire the capital.
yeah.
That
Well,
would
I
be the
mean,
worst.
I, but like that's the thing. Like he is just keeping it afloat with his money, and there are limits to a rock star's money. Whereas the other people, like Dixie Carter, came from a family with like
Mhm.
oil money. That's more than rock star money.
Yep.
Uh, Shahid Khan is worth billions. Vince
Yeah.
McMahon is worth billions.
He has murder
So
money.
yes, unfortunately he does. But it's interesting that Billy Corgan is his own biggest star, but he doesn't leverage that, you
Yeah.
know? Like, because the deal with the CW app is they actually wanted footage from Billy Corgan's wedding as like some
Yeah.
reality thing. That was the big thing for them. How weird is it if you're a wrestling promoter and your own wedding footage is more valuable than your wrestling footage? Something's gone wrong if that's the case, right? Like, I'm sure it was a cool wedding.
I It might even have been a white wedding. I don't know. I'm sure Billy Idol was there.
Oh,
I'm sure it
that'd
was
be
a good
cool.
day for it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just and he's such a dour guy too
Yeah.
that I'm just kind of like, Billy, man, you don't like. He acts like everything is just terrible. All and I mean, I've listened to this Smashing Pumpkins, so maybe this explains a lot. But he like, it's just like, Billy, dude, you don't have to live in misery like this. Like, you can kind of take the
Well,
reins. But
I mean, he's been channeling those feelings into
mm,
music for so long. Like maybe he's just stuck on them.
maybe,
Like if Tom York ran a wrestling promotion, it would be really
oh
sad.
boy, it would be
All the
really sad.
wrestlers would be sad. Like,
Yeah. My girlfriend broke up with me, so now I'm going to fight about it.
only a 2 count. There's lots of musicians who I'd like to see run a wrestling promotion. I'd like to see Rob Zombie run
That'd
a
be cool.
wrestling promotion. I think that could be interesting and disgusting as
Mm-hmm.
well. Mm-hmm.
We had the Insane Clown Posse for a while
Yep,
running their JCP or whatever, or
JCP. I
JCW.
think from time to time, like they'll still do wrestling shows at the Gathering of the Juggalos.
Mm.
Holy shit! If you've never seen anything done by the insane clown posse, like it's the show is actually like a wrestling show while the insane clown posse do their wrestling commentary.
Hmm.
Yeah, and they would just bring in the most ridiculous stuff, like they'd bring in like Abdullah the Butcher while he's in his
Mm-hmm.
70s, just
Just be like, look at him. He's a butcher. Jacko
we
Brothers.
We are approaching halftime. I wanted to get in this thought because we moved a little
Mm-hmm.
closer into some WrestleMania 40 matches
True say.
recently. True say. They are starting to get set up. And one of those, I think, could possibly be Gunther versus Brock Lesnar. Because there's
Oh,
rumors that Brock Lesnar is coming back.
I have a hot take on that.
Yeah, what's your hot take?
Yes.
And
That is the
when I
only
say
thing that needs to be said.
I don't
Yes.
I don't think rumor is the right word because I don't think there are any like actual rumors that they're going to do this. I
Mm.
think it's just, hey, everyone communally all at the same time
Mm-hmm.
is wishing for this.
I don't even
Uh,
care if it's for the title. Honestly, like, does not matter to
but-
me. Just I want to
but
see those two big men hitting each other a lot.
is there any other match in like just taking up WWE's roster? Is there any other match you would want to see more than that?
Only involving people that are dead.
Like,
That's how much. Yeah.
of course, Rock versus Roman Reigns is like the bigger match for promotional and stuff. But in terms of the actual match, where when it starts, you're like, holy shit, I am super glad I am watching this match right now. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think it's possible to do better than Brock Lesnar versus Gunther.
No, no, just do it. Hey, there it is.
There we go. Recording is in process for some
Yeah.
hot takes and cold truths about professional
Ooh.
wrestling.
I'm very pleased that's sticking, by the way. I don't. Every now and again, I don't know. I hope this happens for everyone else because it's a genuine delight. But every now and again, you do something or you say something off the cuff, and it's just really good, and you're like, "Yeah, I do have something in me, don't I?"
I have contributed. I have made a positive contribution to society.
I
Whew.
have helped it along. Yeah, yeah. So that's for this week. Aside from my continual Jinder Mahal WrestleMania booking, which he's gonna get there. If he is not on the WrestleMania 40 card, I am going to drive to Triple H's house and get arrested because you shouldn't trespass.
I I wonder what the odds are of Jinder Mahal on WrestleMania. Like what?
I'm
Like
sure he'll
what
be in
would
the
you?
Andre at the very least.
Yeah, but last year the Andre was only in the on the SmackDown before WrestleMania.
Yeah, that's true.
So does he make the main show at WrestleMania? I would put it at, you know what? I'm gonna say above 50%. He's on the main show.
Mhm.
I think, I think they ride Jinder a little bit. Uh, you know,
Eh, I hey, I'm down for it. I also wonder why Jinder hasn't spent some time in NXT. What's Baron Corbin doing down there? Throw some
yeah,
Jinder down there. You know,
yeah, they could throw some Jinder down in NXT. Nothing wrong with it.
you got these shows, you might as well use them. Anyway, hot takes, cold truths. Where do you want to start?
All right. So we will start off our first opportunity for a hot take or a cold truth. There was a television segment on Monday Night Raw where
I am
Becky
against
Lynch,
television segments on Monday Night Raw. I'd just like to say that. Sorry.
Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley had a promo segment. And I have looked at the television ratings for this. It did very well. People
Mm-hmm.
tuned in for
Yes.
Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley. And it feels as though they are possibly building to those two meeting at WrestleMania, because
Yeah.
the whole idea was Becky Lynch is saying she's in the Royal Rumble. And if she wins, she wants to beat Rhea Ripley. And she said something really cool. She said something along the lines of, I don't know if I'm better than you, and I need to prove
Mm.
to myself that I am. I thought that was a very cool line. So what do we think of Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley possibly wrestling at WrestleMania?
Okay. This kind of match
Mm-hmm.
is what I like to call a sandwich match
Interesting.
because you take some nice bread, good.
Mm-hmm.
You take
Bread is good.
some
Enjoy bread.
lovely meats and cheeses, good. You get some sauces on there,
Mm-hmm.
good. You slap them together, you enjoy every minute of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic. There's nothing like it's perfect. Even a bad sandwich is a good sandwich. You know, it's
Sure.
pizza, the same thing. Even bad pizza, good pizza. Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley, like,
Mm-hmm.
is even more of a slam dunk than Gunther versus Brock Lesnar, in my opinion. You got Rhea Ripley, good. You got Becky Lynch, good. You got WrestleMania, good. Everyone should enjoy this match, and it should happen. And I love the fact that it's Becky Lynch kind of being like, no, I gotta prove to myself and to the world that
Mm.
I can still hang, because I don't know about you, but I still, in my mind, kind of think of Becky Lynch as like she's still a young upstart. You know what I
Well,
mean? But she's
yeah.
been doing this in WWE for like 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, at this point in her career, there's others that are coming up behind her and maybe being a little better, doing it differently, taking what she's done and building on it. So, I love the idea that she's like, no, 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 I got to make sure that I can still hang with the best. That's fantastic.
Oh, I love the way that they set this up. And I love that Becky said, basically, I don't know if I can beat you. You might be better than me. I'm not sure what the exact line was, but it was very cool. Because with someone like Becky Lynch, she's main evented WrestleMania, won the world title, done all this big stuff. Sometimes when you've got a wrestler that has accomplished so much already, you struggle to like find their motivation going into something. But right when she said, like it was basically her character admitting, I don't know if I'm as good as Rhea Ripley. And
Mm-hmm.
so that instantly puts, like, it gives her something to strive for, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, she's won the world title over and over again, but can she beat Rhea Ripley? It's like a
Yeah.
new thing for her to accomplish. I also think like these are two of your biggest stars right now. Like Rhea Ripley, I just went to that house show in Toronto. When
Mm-hmm.
Rhea Ripley came out, it was the biggest pop of the night.
Oh,
Like
she's
it was,
phenomenal.
and because there's so many like kids at
Mm-hmm.
house shows and like like younger fans, you can tell that they see her as like a larger than life like superstar, and it was a
Mm-hmm.
big deal that she was there in person in front of them. And so I think Rhea Ripley by the end of her career could end up one of, if not like the greatest
Mm-hmm.
woman wrestlers in WWE of all time. And
Yep.
Becky Lynch, like she is a pioneer in
Mm-hmm.
wrestling. Becky Lynch got so over and so popular in the build up to WrestleMania 35 that it put the women's championships on par with the men, where you can main event them. You can like her being that popular was able to do something that they haven't been able to do, say, like in the WNBA or in other women's sports. So I think like this could be a matchup between two of the biggest WWE stars of all time, and it feels like a very very big match that possibly could bump, say, like a Seth Rollins versus CM Punk from the main event spot of night one or something. Like I think it's that big.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so here is our second opportunity for a hot take or a cold truth. Oh, and speaking of truth, oh,
It's
nice.
more like a hot R-Truth in a cold
hot
Judgment Day.
Very much so. So a hot R-Truth. So they did this segment on Raw this week where R-Truth was out in the parking lot and he was selling all this bootleg Judgment Day merchandise. And then he came in, he had just had wads of cash, right? And selling like a ton of it. And I don't know if they were referring to this or not. I think maybe it was like an inside joke for them. And if other people knew what they were referring to, that's fine too. But Judgment Day merchandise with R-Truth have been selling out huge.
Yeah.
They are the number one seller on WWE Shop. And that's like, there's only a few that can do that. Like Cody Rhodes does it. CM Punk does it. Like once LA Knight did it. So now, like, they're in that level of popularity. I think they've got something with R-Truth here. I think this could be the start of R-Truth becoming a much bigger player in WWE. What do we think about R-Truth's big increase in popularity?
Well, loves me smart truth. Never going to be upset by R-Truth. I loved the bit where he was, especially because he was in a tag match where he was supposed to be the opponent of Finn Balor and Damian Priest, along with The Miz, and he was just shoving wads of cash into Finn Balor's pockets as the match started. Like, I thought that was so good. And
oh my God,
the only thing that holds R-Truth back, and I think I've said it before on this show, is the fact that R-Truth doesn't have that second gear. Sami Zayn can be the lovable idiot up to a certain point, but then he's going to change gears and become, no, wait, Sammy's a good guy. He's a great wrestler. We like him. And that's how you get your amazing bloodline story. R-Truth at this stage in his career anyways, and the guy's like 70. I mean, he's wrestled forever. He's not 70, but you understand.
He looks great for his age.
He doesn't really have that second gear. And so while this is be wildly, remember how wildly popular he was when he was the 24/7 champion?
Yep.
And then he went away for a while and he did his own thing. He came back and is doing another fun, really good bit that will probably end up the same way. It will grow and grow and grow, get to a point where it becomes just a little too silly. And then that'll be it. He'll go away and we'll get, whatever the next phase of Judgment Day is. That said, I hope this never ends. Like, it's so good.
Well, that's the thing. Is can you take it to another level? Like right now you're good. Just ride it until you think you have to change a little bit, right? So right now just do the silly thing where he's he's a silly guy who wants to be a member of this like dark group or whatever. It's a good dynamic. Lots of funny stuff has happened. I loved how he gave all that money to Finn Balor, but then JD McDonough won his cut. And he was like, you have to be a member of the group. Because remember a few weeks ago, he beat him in the loser leaves the Judgment Day match. I thought that was pretty funny. But so like what you were saying about the second gear, could you do a thing where we love R-Truth so much, and then maybe Finn or Damian keeps mistreating him, and we want R-Truth to stand up for himself, and we're cheering for him to finally stand up for himself against Damian Priest. Could you do it in a serious enough way that this then becomes like not a comedy angle, but a main event angle
Mhm.
in much the same way that Sami Zayn did. That early stuff with him just being in the bloodline, that was
Mhm.
comedy. By the
Yeah.
end, that Royal Rumble segment, that was very serious. That
Yeah.
that was serious. That was an emotional roller coaster. Does R-Truth have the ability to pull off such a performance? I I don't know.
Yes, I'll say he does. Our
Yeah,
truth,
okay.
Ron Killings or whatever his
Mhm.
legal name is. I don't know, but he can do it because I
Mhm.
believe he can do it. I don't think he wants to do it. I think he's perfectly happy just kind of popping in every 6 months or so and doing his thing for a little while and then go. He's got other stuff in the fire. He's a rapper. I don't know if you know that.
Mhm.
But this kind of thing. And the other thing is that I don't think WWE will take it that way unless the fans kind of gently usher it that way in
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
reactions. Because I don't think they're going to be looking to make a second sort of bloodline Sammy situation out
Right.
of the R-Truth Judgment Day situation.
Yeah,
I think,
and they
and
don't
also
have to do that
Judgment Day
yet.
right now is so complicated. Like on JD McDonough's in, he's out. Damian Priest and Finn are the champions, but are they? They kind of hate each other because they're jealous of each other because he's got this briefcase that he tries to cash in like once every 10 minutes, but never does, and so on and so forth. And it's just like I don't know if you want to add another layer to it at this
Mhm.
stage, just to muddy the waters more.
Well, I mean, we'll see what they do, but like they don't have to do anything right now. They could just keep riding this and doing funny stuff
Yeah,
until you hit the point of diminishing returns or you jump the shark or something.
if that
So
money is there, man, stuff it
yeah,
in Finn Balor's pockets.
clearly it is. They've just got wads of cash in their hands. So if it ain't broke,
Stick it in Finn Balor's pocket.
exactly. All right. Let's move on to our next opportunity
Oh,
for
I see. It's time for our annual Nick Nemeth update.
oh yes. But
This is rapidly becoming Zen in the art of Nick Nemeth.
but but it was stuff happened this week. Some very key stuff happened
Oh yeah,
this
yeah,
week.
yeah.
So TNA, they're back to being TNA.
Right.
We can just
Not
stop
Global Force
everything.
Impact Carter
Not Global
Wrestling.
Force Impact Wrestling of the Anaheim Ducks.
Mm,
Wait, I don't. Okay.
mm,
So so TNA held a pay-per-view on Saturday at the Palms in Las Vegas, so very famous venue for like, other stuff,
mm.
boxing or whatever. But it looked really cool and they had a good crowd. They had like over 1,000 fans there. So like a very good sized crowd for TNA. And I don't know if they just drew more because they're back to being TNA wrestling, or it's in Las Vegas, it's at the Palms, and I guess some people just were like, hey,
Mhm.
wrestling at the casino. I don't
Hey.
know. But it ended up looking good. Like the entire show looked like a major league deal for them.
Mhm.
And right at the end, after the world title match where Moose won the TNA World Championship, who should
Moose.
arrive but the former Dolph Ziggler? And he tears off his uh, whatever shirt, and he had
His
a
black T-shirt.
TNA his black T-shirt, and there was a TNA wrestling shirt underneath. And now Nick Nemeth is TNA wrestling. I thought I thought it looked good. I thought he looked like a star. I thought the whole TNA show looked good. What do we think of oh, and also the former Dana Brooke, now
Mhm.
known as
Uh,
yeah,
Don't
Eva
Ash by Hollywood or something
Ash
like that.
by Elegance.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's got a perfume name, it sounds like.
Nobody was there to tell her that that's dumb.
Well, we'll
It's,
see where they go with it. She
it's
was
her
kind of
name.
doing,
There's nowhere to go with it. That's just what they call her.
but to me, Nick Nemeth and Dana Brooke have a
Mm.
lot in common right now. I've heard a few interviews with Dana Brooke, and she sounds like she's got a bit of a chip on her shoulder. Like she wants to show the
Mhm.
wrestling world, hey, I'm better than you think I am, and I'm better than WWE thought I am. And I
Mhm.
feel like Nick Nemeth wants to show the world, hey, no, I'm a big
Mhm.
star in this industry, and
Well,
I'm going to go out and make myself a bigger star. Both these guys come into TNA looking like they have something to prove. What do we think of Nick Nemeth and the former Dana Brooke in TNA wrestling?
Well, we've talked about Nick Nemeth before and how TNA is pretty much tailor made for a guy like him. So
Yeah.
I think he will do very well being, frankly, the big fish in the little ponds. Like a Matt Cardona, like an EC3. He will do quite well that way. And he is above, I think, those two guys in terms of just prominence. But
Hmm.
I think that this is going to be his gear, and he'll be great. He will become a terrific wrestler in Global Force TNA Impact. That is going to be there. It's a no brainer. I'm more interested in the Dana Brooke thing
Yeah.
because Dana Brooke was one that I feel like she had she needed a lot of work talking
Hmm.
and developing character because she was a former fitness model. She wasn't really
Yeah.
used to that aspect of the thing. And I feel like WWE Vince McMahon lost just kind of like forgot about her and never really
Yeah.
did anything with her. Because her run in NXT with Tennille Emma Dashwood, where they were, sort of taking on Asuka,
Hmm.
it was one of Asuka's big feuds in NXT. One of my favorites of all time. Was so well done, so good. Dana Brooke was amazing at that. At that point, she was still learning to wrestle a lot, so her matches were
Yeah.
a little hinky sometimes. But having Emma there to sort of shore it up, and Asuka obviously is one of the best of all time, she was doing well. And then they brought her up to the main event or to the main roster, and I was like, well, she's tailor made for Vince McMahon. Like
Yeah.
this,
Yeah. That's what I thought too.
and they just kind of were like, all right, well, here's main event, and we're going to
Yeah.
make Emelina so that she gets run out of the company on a rail. And then, we'll see how you're doing in 5 years when we like let you go because we forgot you worked here.
Yeah, and that did seem like her entire time on the main roster, she was kind of she was near the bottom and someone
Definitely an
who like
afterthought.
she just survived a bunch of cuts before she was eventually cut.
Hmm.
But what has me excited about Dana Brooke in TNA is how they debuted her and just the overall kind of vibe that she gave off. So they showed her walking in. I didn't know, like, they just did this little clip of like, she's wearing a very fancy gown. All you see is like long blonde
Hmm.
hair, and like, it, all that you're being told is someone important has arrived. It's like, and I was like, who would that be? Like,
Yeah.
I
She was
didn't.
kind of unrecognizable.
Yeah, but she like, very done up like a different character in this I still can't remember her name, but something about elegance maybe. But
Ash by elegance. Yeah.
Ash by elegance. So she's the fact that she's reinvented herself or that they have worked together to
Hmm.
reinvent her. Um or that she just went on,
Yeah.
like she could just go in and play off the fact that she was on WWE television for a long time, not
Hmm.
in a major role, but people know who she is. But that's not what she's doing. She's going
Hmm.
the unbeaten path and is going to try and reinvent herself into a
Hmm.
character that can take her to another level. I was just impressed by the way
Hmm.
that she's handling moving to TNA wrestling, moving away from WWE, not just leeching off what she did in
Yeah.
WWE, but starting something new. That's
Here's
why that's why I want to see what she does next there.
here's what I think is impressive about it, that she's doing it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because Dana Brooke isn't one of those people that slaved away on the indies for years and slept in her
Right.
car at 15 because she loved it. You know what I mean? And she could make tons of money in the fitness world,
Yes, she could.
so she doesn't really need wrestling. And
No.
given the sour kind of way that her WWE career ended, I don't think anyone would fault her for being like, all right, well, you gave it a shot and wrestling was fun. Now go do something else. But no, she's like, no, I want to make this wrestling thing work, and I want
Yeah.
to make it work on my terms. And I think I have a lot of respect for that because she doesn't need to be doing it, but she's doing it, and she's doing it 100%. And I think that that's really commendable.
The wrestlers who succeed post WWE are the ones that love wrestling and approach it as an art.
Hmm.
If you approach it as a job, you you're not going to be willing to do things like take a pay cut
Yep.
or things like that. I I feel Dana Brooke. has crossed this threshold where she's like, oh, wait, that is like someone who approaches their wrestling as an art. And I want to see what she creates now. So I'm interested. Got another guy who showed up in a place where we're not used to seeing him. Another opportunity for a hot take, a cold truth. This was very interesting. So, Jungle Boy, the former Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, who we haven't seen since he told CM Punk to cry an entire river's worth of tears, is what I understand that saying to be. He shows up at New Japan Pro Wrestling at Battle in the Valley. He comes out, he takes out his AEW contract and tears it up, which, as we all know, is legally binding. If you ever want to get out of a signed contract, you just tear it up.
You have a mortgage, that's all you have to do.
No,
they don't have digital copies, nothing.
Yep. Doesn't, So, and anyway, and then he puts on a little thing that says scapegoat. So I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what this gimmick is, but I can tell you what wrestling does not need any more of. And that is references to any of the backstage bullshit that took place in AEW. We're done. We're done with it. We're moving on.
Yeah.
Jack, just no. All right. Just be Jungle Boy for a little bit again. We'll all forget, and then you can go back to it. But this, no.
Grow your sideburns out.
Yeah.
Come on, let's do this. Make friends with your dinosaur again. Like let's make this happen. Yeah, I mean, obviously the whole tearing up his AEW contract and stuff is a work, and it's I'm surprised that they're continuing to poke at this sort of sleeping bit. Like it's such a one-sided argument at this point. Like CM Punk doesn't care. He's gone. He's doing something else. Everyone has moved on from this except Tony Khan and apparently Jack Perry. But I don't know. I'm kind of surprised that they're doing it in New Japan too, because Japanese wrestling fans don't really go for like the big garish drama. They're very story based and very like character driven and stuff like that. Kind of like a calmer version of Lucha Libre. But it's so I was a little surprised to see him show up. That said, I can understand Tony Khan being like, you just go to Japan for a while, please. Just I can't deal with you right now. Jinder Mahal is getting title shots. I don't know what to think. So I understand maybe why he's over there doing that, and maybe it's not supposed to be that big a deal to us here. Just in a global world, it's how it shakes out. But either way, I like Jack Perry as a wrestler.
Yeah.
I think he's got a great athletic ability. So I'm glad to see him back and doing stuff, because for a while there it was like, is the result of this unpleasantness backstage going to be that CM Punk gets a fat contract from WWE and Jack Perry disappears forever? Because that's a little upsetting.
Well, it was kind of weird because you're like, I mean, they do this investigation, and the guy they found at fault has made millions of dollars in merchandise and a deal with WWE in the time since, and we hadn't even seen the other guy. I said before, wrestling just needs to move on from this. I know there's the belief in wrestling that anything controversial creates cash or whatever. Not this. This didn't create any cash. This cost AEW a lot of momentum, probably a lot of money. I just think Jack Perry should come back and just be Jack Perry. Don't reference what happened with CM Punk. Don't do anything to make people think about what happened with CM Punk. You don't want your fans even thinking about that anymore. We all want to move on. And, Jack Perry, again, great wrestler. Happy to, I would much rather see him go to AEW, go back to AEW and just resume his career. And none of this, like, we're going to play it up like I've quit on AEW because I'm upset with how they handled it. Fuck that shit. That's not going to lead to any increased pay-per-view buys or tickets sold or nothing. So just don't do it.
Yeah. Right. I agree. With the little time remaining, would you like to do the ratings winners or talk about the Young Bucks?
Okay. Speaking of which, actually, there's a natural segue to go right
Oh, okay. Sorry.
into the Young Bucks. And I kind of gave away some of the quick rating stuff. So like quickly, Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley did really well in the ratings. Samoa Joe versus Hook did really well in the ratings. Jinder Mahal and Seth Rollins did exactly what a Raw main event normally does. It wasn't a dip. It wasn't a whatever. Yeah, so those are
There
the
we
big
go.
winners. Also, a Bianca Belair versus Bailey match on SmackDown did really
Ooh,
well. So those are
okay.
your ratings winners. All right, moving
Okay.
on. So the
Moving
segue.
on.
All right, so our last opportunity for a hot take or a cold truth. So on AEW Dynamite this week, there was a sit-down interview not with Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, but with Matthew and Nicholas Jackson. And
Ooh.
this appears to be part of this new persona that the Young Bucks are developing as heels as they move in to this match with Darby Allin and Sting at AEW Revolution. And some of the things that the Young Bucks said on Dynamite this week was how they're sick of kind of what's happened to AEW and they need to get rid of the Stings and the people who had, success elsewhere and came in, it's sort of it was sort of like, hey, we're going to reestablish ourselves as the EVPs of this company. Anyway, what do we think of Matt and Nick Jackson developing new heel personas with finely groomed mustaches? If you've noticed, they've come back with finely groomed mustaches,
Mhm.
a fairly big heel move in wrestling, as popularized by Vince McMahon. What do we think about the Young Bucks and their turning heel here?
Well, I mean, obviously the mustaches and things like that. The Young Bucks are walking Easter eggs, so yeah,
Yes.
I buy. And the whole like, people from other places shouldn't come here and do that is, I'm sure a thinly veiled shot at CM Punk as well, and so on and so forth. What I find fascinating about this is one, it's a new Young Bucks, which is great.
Yeah.
No one, love or hate the Young Bucks, you can't say they're not entertaining. And the other thing is that they have taken the slot apparently as Sting's last match.
Yeah.
And I think that is a fascinating thing to like. That's a fascinating pairing to me. Like
Mm-hmm.
Sting, first of all, that Sting's last match is going to be a tag match. That makes sense. He's a million years old. But like,
Yeah.
and Ric Flair ain't going to do it with him. So it's so it's fascinating to me that the Young Bucks are the ones that he wants to sort of go out facing, and I assume Darby Allin will be his tag partner or something like that, and we'll see that. So I'm sure he's got his reasons and it'll all come out too, but I think it's a fascinating choice of all the people that Sting could have put.
Mm-hmm.
New characters with it, even better, because if they put a bullet in Sting, that's a pretty heavy axe to swing when you are being a heel authority figure / wrestler. So
Yes.
could lead to some really interesting stories.
Yeah, I actually was really impressed with how the Young Bucks did this because the Young Bucks, I felt like for the last year since all this stuff has been going on, them and Hangman Page, I feel like they haven't had the same creative. Like this feels like the Young Bucks have really said, okay, we're going to dive into something creatively. We're going to create something that is special to us. That is, and so like I'm excited because I know how creative the Young Bucks are. And they have orchestrated some of, I think, the most interesting storylines of the last 10 years, even before AEW, when they were doing it on their YouTube channel. They were building up angles for their matches in Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling. And that stuff got so popular that it helped create AEW. So the Young Bucks have, in my opinion, created some of the most interesting storylines of the modern age. And it looks like they've decided, all right, we're about to start our next big story. So it's like, you're getting a big time movie director who has decided like, all right, I'm going to start a new franchise or something like that. It seems like the first chapter of a story that could go on for years. And so